I am going to give you practice questions for the laws of exponents. I have with me 16 different questions, of which I will be giving the step-by-step solution, and then later on you can also try it for yourself. I will be posting the PDF link of the file that you can just download later on, or you can also answer it first and then just check your answers by watching this video. Okay, so let's start first. So you have 3 times 4 squared. Now don't be confused because the dot that you see here, I'm using it as a multiplication, not as a decimal. Okay, so if you have 3 times 4 squared, so basically it's just 3 times 16. So 3 times 16 is basically 48. This is the answer. Okay, this is the easier part. Okay, now let's move on to number 2. You have 4x cubed times 2x squared. Now the difference with item number 2 to item number 1 is that in item number 1, there's no way for you to simplify any of them because 3 is already a prime number. But in question number 2, I can simplify 4 as 2 squared. Yes? So which means that this one I can write down as x cubed times 2x cubed, which is basically 2 times 2 x cubed times 2x squared. Okay, now I can just multiply all of them. So I will have 8. And then I can just add the following exponents, which is x raised to the 5th. Now, either way, you can just multiply them directly. The reason why I showed you this other method is because there are times wherein you can actually simplify it for you to see which ones you can multiply and which exponential laws you can apply. So, but if let's say you want to use the other method, you can just multiply them directly, like the coefficient. So 4 times 2 is 8. And you know that x has the same base, so you just write down 8x raised to the 5th. Okay? Now, third question. X cubed times x7. Both of them have the same base. So, I can just add x raised to the 10. Okay? Now, for this one, I can just write down 2 times 2 is 4. X raised to the 7. Okay. For number 5, you have 7 raised to the 5th over 7 raised to the 3rd. Okay, now in your quotient rule, if you have a numerator and a denominator like this, and both of them have the same base, you can actually subtract the exponents. So you will get 7 raised to 2, which is equals to 49. This is way much easier instead of you trying to calculate the big numbers, because you can actually do that. Like if you prefer to do that, you can actually do, but it's much easier for you to follow the exponential laws and simplify the item for you to derive the answer. Okay, for number 6, you have 10x, which is enclosed in a parenthesis. Okay, now the negative sign is outside and raised to 0. So 10x raised to 0 is 1. Times negative, you will get negative 1. with items number 7 until 12. Okay, so you have x y cube raised to the second. Okay, now whenever you see a parenthesis and it is raised to an exponent, you have to multiply the exponential value to the one outside. So in this case, this one is basically x raised to 1. So 1 times 2 is x2. The other one is y cubed. So 3 times 2 is y raised to 6. This is your answer. Okay, let's take a more complicated problem. Okay, now in item number 7, they are all variables or they are all letters. But what if you have a coefficient? So the same rule applies. So you will have to supply the exponent to each and every one of them. So 2 multiplied or raised to 2, so you will get 4. A1 times 2 is A2. 4 times 2 is B8. Now, it doesn't end there because you still have another set. So, you will have A1, you will have to multiply to 5. 1 times 5, so you have A5. And then, you will also multiply B. You will get 1 times 5 is B raised to 5. So, you will have to supply this exponent and multiply it to the exponential value here. Now, is this the final answer? Not yet. So, what you can do is you take a look at the variables. So, you have A and B. So, you can just write down the coefficient 4. Now, because both of the A's have the same base, which means that you can add the exponential value because it's multiplication. So, you have A, 2 plus 5 is 7. 8 plus 5 is 13. So, you have B raised to 13. Okay, good. Now, for item number 9, so this particular item is almost similar to the previous question where you have to divide 7 raised to 5 over 7 raised to 3. But in this case, you are dealing with variables. But it's the same concept. So, you have x5 minus 2 because it's division. So, you subtract the exponents. And y3 minus 4. Now, simplifying this, 5 minus 2 is x cubed. Now, 3 minus 4 is y negative 1. Now, in the previous YouTube video, I have mentioned that whenever you have a negative exponential value, you will have to move it either to the top or to the bottom, depending. So, in this case, it's at the numerator or at the top. So, you will have to put it to the bottom to get rid of the negative exponent. So, the answer is x cubed over y raised to 1, or just basically x cubed over y. Okay, number 10. So it's the same problem, but what you can do is you can try to figure out if there are some items that you can easily cancel out. So in this case, I can cancel out 4 and 16 because 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, now I can cancel out x, and this one will be x to the 4th. I can cancel out y here, and this one will be y over 3, which will give me x4 over 4y3. Now, you can actually have another method of doing this, okay? So, let's say, what you can do is, you can write down 16 as 4 raised to the negative 2, yes? So let me just copy the original given. This is the second method. Okay. I can write down 16 as 4 raised to the negative 2. And then I will just copy the remaining item here. Okay. Now, 4 raised to 1. Okay. So sorry, this one should be positive. So 4 raised to 1 minus 2, x raised to the 5th minus 1, and y1 minus 4. Okay, so you will have 4 raised to the negative 1, x raised to the 4th, and y raised to the negative 3. Now, if you look at the item, you see that 4 and y has both negative exponents, which means that you have to bring them down, giving you x raised to the 4th over 4y cubed, which is exactly the same as our first answer. Okay, now let's proceed to number 11. y5 times y raised to the negative 1 is what? So you can just add them up because it's multiplication. y5 plus minus 1 is basically y4. Okay, for number 12, this particular item is the same with number 7 and 8. But the only difference is because it's a negative exponent, you will have to reciprocate its position. So in this case, if it's in the numerator, because this one means, like if you have this, it means 2 over 1. So I will have to put them at the opposite, 2x cubed y negative 3 raised to the 2. Sorry. So following the previous item, I will have 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is x6. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Now, this one is a negative number, so I have to put it up. So I have y6 over 4x6. Okay. Perhaps some of you will ask, why is this one a positive number? Because, like what I said, in order for you to get rid of the negative exponent, you will have to change the position. So, like let's say if you have 2 raised to the negative 1. To get rid of this, I can write it down as 1 over 2. Now, if I have 1 over 2 raised to the negative 1, I can change this position and put this at the top to get rid of the negative exponent. With items number 13 to 16. Okay, so as you can see, the last 4 items are a combination of a bit more complicated problem sets. But as long as you know the rules and the law or the laws, it's easier for you to identify which one applies and which one you can use. So for number 13, you have 2x squared y multiplied to 3x4y raised to the negative 3. So first you work on the coefficients. I can multiply them, so I can write down 6. Now, they have the same base, and I'm multiplying them, so I can just add the exponents. x6. Now the y, this one is a negative and this one is a positive, so this one will be like this, which is basically y1 plus negative 3, which is y negative 2, or 6x raised to the 6 over y raised to 2. Okay, now let's move on to item number 14. Okay, whenever you see a negative exponent, it's actually easier if you can bring it down so you can see a positive exponent, which is easier to deal with. Because some students, what they prefer is to get rid of the integer because it makes it all confusing. But I will teach you two methods to do this. So I can write down m negative 13 as m raised to the 13th, and I can just copy m at the top. But because both of them have the same base, I can just add them up. Okay, so now I know that I have okay. Now another method is for you to directly work on the exponents. So you have m negative 13 plus 4 plus 6 will give you m negative 3, which is also equal to 1 over m cubed. So this answer and this answer is correct. Okay, let's proceed to question number 15. Now you have a negative exponent, so you can actually reverse or change the position. So what you can do is I can write down 3a square b cubed here, and the opposite, put this 1 below, negative 2a3b squared, and then I will raise it to 2. Okay, now the coefficients, I can just write down negative 3 over 2. Yes? Okay. Now, a raised to the 2 over a raised to the 3 is basically, you just subtract 2 minus 3. So it will be a raised to the negative 1, so which means that a will be down. And b, 3 minus 2 is basically b raised to 1. So your b will be at the numerator at the top. And then you will have to, square it. So which means that this negative number will become positive. So 3 squared is 9. b1 times 2 is b squared. 2 raised to the 2 is 4. And a1 times to the second exponential power, you will get 4a squared. So this is your final answer. Okay, and for our last item, number 16, this one is very, very easy. You just cancel this one out. You will get y over 2 over 3. Now the question is there any way for you to rewrite this without using any exponents? The answer is yes. Okay? Whenever you see an exponent that is a fraction, so we call it as a fractional exponent, you can actually write it as a radical sign, which means that this will be your root and this one will be your exponent. Okay, so this will be the coverage of my next YouTube video that I will be uploading later. Thank you. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a message in the comment section. And you can also download the file that you can practice, and you can just refer to this video for the answer key. So please don't forget to subscribe. I will be uploading updated videos and practice questions.